So, how does a state-of-the-art Boeing 777, one of the safest airliners ever built, just fall out of the sky on a perfect, crystal-clear day? That's the puzzle we're digging into today. All right, so picture this. It's San Francisco International Airport, July 6th, 2013. You literally couldn't ask for a better day. Visibility is 10 miles, the winds are calm, Asiana Flight 214 is coming in from Seoul, and everything looks completely routine. But it wasn't routine, not at all. A pilot in another plane, just waiting to take off, was watching this all unfold in horror. He saw this sudden, really violent pull-up at the last second, but it was just too late. The plane's tail slams into the seawall at the very edge of the runway and just disintegrates. What was recovered from the cockpit voice recorder paints this picture of just escalating panic. Think about it. 8 seconds from impact, the plane is already way too slow. A second later, someone calls for more speed. Then, at 4 seconds out, the stick shaker starts going off. That's the plane's last-ditch, violent warning that it is about to stall and fall. A second and a half to go, the final, desperate call to abort the landing. But there was just no time left. And this is the question that just baffled everyone. You have a modern marvel of engineering, a crew with thousands of hours of experience, and not a single cloud in the sky. So what on earth went so catastrophically wrong? Well, the answer wasn't a faulty engine or some broken part. Investigators realized pretty quickly that the key to this whole mystery was buried in that complex relationship between the pilots and the plane's super smart, highly automated systems. The National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB, they confirmed it almost immediately. The plane, it was working perfectly. The weather, perfect. Their final report pointed the finger directly at the flight crew's management of the approach, and more specifically, a critical misunderstanding of what the plane's automation was and, maybe more importantly, was not doing for them. And this brings us to this really crucial concept in modern aviation called mode confusion. To put it simply, it's when the pilots think the plane is doing one thing, but the automation is actually doing something else entirely. And that gap between human expectation and machine reality, well, it can be deadly. So to really get how this mode confusion could even happen, we kind of need to understand how pilots talk to the plane. The easiest way is to think of the 777's automation as having 2 different brains. You've got a strategic one for the long game and a tactical one for all the immediate commands. So yeah, you've got 2 levels of control. First, there's the Flight Management System, or FMS. That's the strategic brain. It knows the entire flight plan, everything from taking off in Seoul to touching down in San Francisco. But then, for all the short-term stuff, like an air traffic controller telling you to change altitude right now, pilots use the Mode Control Panel, the MCP, and that's the tactical brain. And this right here, this is a hugely important detail. That panel of knobs and buttons, the MCP, it's a request panel. A pilot uses it to tell the automation what they want it to do. It's not a status screen. It doesn't show you what the system is actually doing. So if the MCP is just for making requests, where's the confirmation? Where's the proof? That's the Flight Mode Annunciator, or FMA. It's just a little strip of text at the very top of the pilot's main screen. But that little strip, that is the absolute, undisputed source of truth. It tells the pilots exactly what mode the automation is in, right now. And overlooking it, well, it can be a disaster. Okay, so how did it all go so wrong? It turns out a very specific sequence of commands put the aircraft into a state that the pilots just didn't recognize. It's a sort of flaw in the human-machine interface called the hold mode trap, and it left that 777 completely unprotected. Okay, here is the fatal sequence. First, the plane is a bit high, so to get down faster, a pilot selects flight level change. The plane does exactly what it's supposed to do and pulls the power to idle to start the descent. But here's the thing. In doing so, the auto-throttle system enters hold mode. And this is the trap. In hold mode, the auto-throttle is effectively asleep. It will not wake up to add power even if the plane slows to a dangerously low speed. The pilots missed that one crucial word, hold, on their FMA, and they weren't manually keeping an eye on their speed. The consequence was just catastrophic. With the auto-throttle effectively napping, the plane's speed just bled away and away until it hit a minimum of 103 knots. That is a staggering 34 knots below its target speed. The wings were simply no longer generating enough lift to fly. You can imagine this crash sent absolute shockwaves through the aviation world. And the solution wasn't about building a better auto-throttle. It was about getting back to basics, about reinforcing a fundamental philosophy of piloting that had maybe been a little overshadowed by all this amazing automation. Global authorities like the ICAO put out new guidance, and the message was crystal clear. If the plane isn't doing what you expect it to do, stop trying to outthink the computer. Disengage it. Take control. Go back to a simpler way of flying until you know for sure that the aircraft is stabilized. So airlines were told to completely overhaul their automation policies. This meant creating really clear guidelines on everything, from the philosophy of when to even use automation to how pilots should share the workload, with a heavy emphasis on one core idea. Always verify what the machine is actually doing. At the end of the day, it all came back to the golden rule of aviation. It's a mantra for pilots in literally any situation. Aviate, navigate, communicate. And it's in that specific order. Your first, last, and most important job is always to fly the airplane. Everything else comes second. You know, the lesson of Asiana 214 goes way beyond the cockpit. From self-driving cars to AI assistants, we are surrounded by increasingly brilliant automation. We trust these systems to handle the routine stuff for us, but this crash is such a stark reminder of the hidden dangers. And it leaves us with a really important question. As our tools get smarter and smarter, almost perfect, are we forgetting how to take control when they're not?